Welcome back, MTG Joe here. We're going to be doing another installment of the weekly meta breakdown where we look at the best performing decks on MTG Arena. This is going to be a standard best of 3 video, but we're going to be doing it slightly different. Normally we get all the data from Untapped from the ladder events, and we kind of look at what's performing well, stuff like that, because it's a large sample size. But the folks at MTG Decks did a really nice job of curating a win rate matrix for a Japanese tournament that happened over the weekend. Nearly 600 players participated in a standard best of 3 tournament. And we got this great data. And the one thing that I love data. I do it for my profession. Numbers don't lie. People do. Feelings do. But numbers don't. There's obviously ways you can manipulate data to kind of tell a narrative. But in this case, it's just kind of showing based off of a fairly reasonable sample size a number of kind of win rate matrix data in terms of what's performed well, what hasn't. So what we're going to do today is focus on the top 3 performing win rate decks based on this tournament and kind of give you some samples of what the decks are looking at. I'm going to be playing in the Pizza Box like Jankathon later this month, in October actually. So it's like these monthly tournaments that happen. I commentated the last one. If you're interested in playing in them, they're free to play. And I'm going to be playing standard, so I need to find a deck. And I'm looking at all the types of data to kind of go into that. So I'll link all the deck lists. I'll link this matrix. I'll link the tournament if you want to look at all the deck lists themselves. And we'll kind of go through it today. So if you look at the overall, you can see kind of scrolling across, we got a huge amount of games played. I'm going to focus on things with over 100 matches of data. While on the lower end, like you can see by filtering win rate, like Esper Flash had a overall win rate of 70%, but only played 20 matches. It's very difficult to kind of extrapolate how these things actually function when you're only playing such a small number of games. So we're not looking that way. We're going to look on the top or like higher end and just kind of going through, like we could see the Golgari mid-range deck, 51% overall win rate, positive win rates against like Esper mid, Esper Control, White Weenie, Naya, Pia, and Sultai mid-range. Kind of the mid-range decks, it does better than them, but suffers against like blue base control, and then like more aggressive style decks, which is actually kind of surprising. Also pretty bad matchup against the domain deck, which can usually just go over the top. Red deck wins was the highest win rate along with Esper Legends, both at 59% win rate. So we see mono red, obviously against the mirror, is going to have 50%. So given that it was 326 matches, 40 of which are mirrors, that's going to lower the overall score down. So it has a bad matchup into Esper Legends. The Legends deck does have a positive win rate against that after 20 matches, but we're looking at kind of the main decks. Golgari mid positive, like the ramp decks positive, domain, like Alara domain and then domain ramp, kind of the two combo, like the combo versions. Esper mid-range, which was kind of the non-Legends version of the deck, positive win rate. Fairies positive win rate. Esper Control positive win rate. White Weenies, Naya. So against a lot of the core decks, positive win rates, really just struggling against the Esper Legends deck, which is really what you want to see if you're choosing a deck for a tournament. Alara Domain, this is the combo version of the deck. Sorry for the ad. We're leveraging their site, but if you put full screen ads, kind of takes away from it. Alara Domain's the combo version. Really just had a better matchup against the domain version of the ramp, and then the Beanstalk ramp. Still 53%, not terrible, but not as high as some of the others. The Esper Legends deck, pretty strong win rate overall. Slightly above average against Golgari, mirrored against that. Esper mid-range, a little bit worse. That tends to have a higher density of like Sheoldred's heavier removal kind of counters to deal with it. Usually has options to sweepers in the side, which does hurt this deck. Surprisingly, Esper Control, there was only 4 matches, but I would imagine this one's kind of interesting because I could see Control kind of going over the top depending on the access to sweepers that they have. And then just kind of scrolling through, Esper mid 52, Fairies 48, Esper Control had a really rough time. White Weenies also at 55. So that's going to be the 3 decks we're focusing on. The Weenies deck had a tough time against mono red as well as Golgari mid, but tends to beat up on the domain decks. And then just looking at Esper Legends in mid, good against mid, bad against Legends, kind of mixed into there. So we're going to jump in and kind of take a look. So with mono red, there's a lot of different variants that you could kind of play with. The core of the deck is always there. So we have like your Swiss Spears, some number of Bloodthirsty Adversaries, Kumanos, some number of Phoenix Chicks, some number of Squeeze, 1 to 2 Feldons, 3 to 4 Scoundrels, 3 to 4 Godric is usually the core. Lightning Strike, Play with Fire are pretty static. Then what kind of varies is like you have the Monstrous Rage in some cases. I've seen anywhere between 1 and 4 copies. Nihiri Warcrafting in some, but others are using the Witchstalker Frenzy, as we see in this version here, just given that it's a cheaper effect. So you kind of forego the card advantage angle for having an instant speed version that can be as little as 1 mana. The mana bases, usually some number of Mishras, Sokuzans, and 22 to 23 lands. We look at this version here, 22, 2 Sokuzans, 2 Mishras Foundries, kind of mixed into that. The sideboard is really where it kind of differs. So and the festivities fine for like the go wide strategies, tokens, stuff like that. Torch the Tower is nice as exile removal. So against the Golgari deck, it's a nice call to bring in because your 2 drops, your 3/2s in both cases, Underdog and the green one, that adventure creature, they both get hit by this and get exiled, which is nice. Shivan Devastator goes over the top. Brotherhood's End for the go wide decks, Barrages in there. I probably wouldn't be playing Brotherhood's End, to be honest. I do like the Planeswalker package, Ajaya and Koth, and then Twisted Fealty where needed, just kind of mixed into there. This is the list from the tournament I commentated over the weekend that got number 2 place. They were basically 1 damage short of winning the whole thing, which was kind of annoyingly I'm usually a mono red player at heart, so it kind of hurts in that case. So we see a lot of the kind of same things. 2 Phoenix Chicks in this list, 3 Feldons, 4 Godric. But the big kind of tech in this version here was the Urbrask's Forge. So this really allowed them to play through multiple layers of removal, sweepers, stuff like that. Seems like folks have largely moved off of Farewell for the most part, and this plays a nice angle there, repeatedly giving creatures. This also really helps to enable being able to turn on Godric every turn, because this is going to count as one of your celebration targets each time. This version is on the 2 Witchstalkers main and the 1 Monstrous Rage. Sideboard, just like various removal, Soulless Jailers, kind of cool tech to be brought in against like the Alara combo decks, anything that's looking to cheat stuff into play. More Witchstalkers in the side, Furnace Punisher for like the greedier mana bases, the Planeswalker package, some Graveyard Hate kind of mixed into there. So I like this list a little bit more than this one here. The sideboard seems a lot more composed as well. And kind of the important thing, like you can fight on the axis in mono red of trying to control the board, but it's not like your burn version. Typically burn will have access to a sweeper, but this is playing to the board, so it kind of hurts you just as much as it would hurt your opponent. In terms of Esper Legends, this is another deck that's going to have a variety of options. So in this version here, it's going to be like Adelins in here, Denix, Thalias, Urtai, Skrells, couple like down to 2 Ronas. The big kind of tech piece is having the Fairy Mastermind. It's really big in the mirror because it also draws you cards in any kind of the control matchups. It's a flash threat. Anything that's just providing extra card advantage, you can take advantage with the Fairy Mastermind. There's access also to Lord Skitter in the main. This is main board Graveyard Hate, and then also lets you go wide, which really powers up your Rafine attacks, where now you have more tokens to attack and kind of go in from there. 2 Make It Disappears and 2 Go for the Throat's main. And then your sideboard, just having access to blue gives you access to like Disdainful Stroke, really good in the like big mana decks. I would like even be open to playing like a 3rd or 4th, maybe Negate or just Disdainful Stroke. This deck does kind of lose bad to sweepers, so just having access to that. They've largely cut off the then they do that to Thalias, never mind. Some of the Esper mid-range decks are off Thalia because they're playing more of a non-creature package. Elspeth Smite's a card that's also been picked up a lot in popularity, just a 1 mana answer to a lot of the aggressive decks. Could also see like Knockout Blow if you're really worried about mono red in that case. Lawrence, Go for the Throats, Wedding Announcement for the grindier matchups, Extraction Specialist for the grindier matchups as well. And then lastly, mono white humans. So we have the list here. So it's kind of the humans list that you see in best of 1 to some extent, but geared a little bit more for the best of 3. Not all in like linear aggro, We see no Brutal Cathars, nothing of that nature. Spellbook Vendors in here, giving you an extra power, kind of the Luminarch Aspirant at home. This will allow you on the beginning of your combat, you can pay a mana, put a sorcerer roll token on a creature, gets +1/1, and when it attacks, scries. So it helps kind of clean up your draws. 4 Ossifications main, as well as 4 Extraction Specialists. The lifelink's relevant against mono red. It helps you kind of recycle your threats as well. And then a 3 Circle of Loyalty on the top end. 2 mana gives you a creature, and then for 5 mana is like an anthem, repeatable anthem for your team. Full 4 Mishras in the mana base. This version could kind of support it compared to the mono red, because you're not all in on like cheaper spells, and really the only double spells are turns 3 and 4, which you should be fine. Curse of Silence can be named like sweepers, any kind of problematic cards. Lay down arms for more cheap removal, destroy evil for bigger things, invasion is kind of a Thoughtseize, and then Wedding Announcement as a kind of, against heavy removal decks, you have the option to kind of bring it there. So that's kind of a quick summary. I just want to bring up the stats like this. Worlds is this weekend, so we'll see what the pros are going to be bringing to that. So I'll do a full summary of the meta there and kind of see how things evolve from that point forward. In any case, thanks for watching. Hope you have a great one, and we'll see you next time.